Our lecturer this year is Dr. Bill Pinson. Dr. Pinson has been a pastor. He was the executive director of the Baptist General Commission of Texas, which is a major partnering organization with Hardin-Simmons, and we with it. Pastor, professor, lots of engagements over the years. He was a student of T.B. Maston, who taught at Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth for 41 years. A student of Dr. Maston's, and then later came into the position that Maston retired for years. Also a seminary president, but lots of realms of areas applying vocationally the matter of living rightly and wrongly in God's world. Dr. Pinson, welcome. Our second lecture today.
This morning I want to share just a little bit about the thought of Dr. Maston, as you find it in his writings and his teachings and some of the records of his speaking engagements. But there's no way you would understand and compress 41 years of teaching, 90 years of life, 21 books, and a mass of other material in one brief chapter time. In Christian ethics, it has to do with what does the Christian faith and the scriptures say about these areas of allness. And for Maston, Christian ethics involve the application of the gospel, that is, the good news of Jesus Christ, for all of life, all of it, no exceptions. As a result, he dealt with a wide variety of ethical and social issues such as race relations, family life, church-state issues, economics, daily work, war, peace, and various moral issues such as sex and drugs and pornography and pride and greed and gluttony. I've never known anyone, or I've never known about anyone quite like. Just a few minutes, let me focus on three areas that relate to all of us on how to live life well. One has to do with the resources for living life well. Another has to do with the unifying concept for living life well. And the third has to do with the primary focus for living life well. Now, in Maston's thought, the basic resource for living life well are the Bible, our strong relationship with Jesus Christ, an understanding of history, and a knowledge of the current circumstances and events. Dr. Maston was Bible-centered, both in his life and in his teachings. He always emphasized, however, that God was the ultimate authority, not the Bible. The Bible is the revelation of God. It's not our God. But it does tell us about God and about God's nature. So he relied upon the scriptures to indicate something about God's sovereignty and God's will and God's love for human life. His approach to the Bible was never a kind of wooden literalism, but he realized the Bible was a dynamic book and it needed to be read and understood and interpreted and applied to life and life's issues. And he insisted on using the very best methods possible for interpreting and applying the Bible. A former student of Maston said, quote, Maston's teaching has contributed to much change for good simply because he approached what many consider liberal subjects, social issues, with a thoroughly conservative biblical application. Dr. Maston insisted that as sacred as the Bible is, it cannot take the place of Jesus Christ. Central in all of his thought was Christ and the believer's relationship with Jesus. He wrote, quote, man needs help from outside himself to overcome sin in his life. He receives that help when he comes in a union with the resurrected Christ. Dr. Maston also emphasized the importance of history. Now, for many people, history is not their most popular subject, but it is one of the most important of all of life. You don't understand the background of subjects, the history of certain issues. You don't know how to deal with them. So on every ethical issue, he probed the past to discover all that he could know about it. This helped him to be aware of various different approaches and acknowledge them, and then he would come to his own understanding. Another key source for Dr. Maston, and I think for us, has to do with current circumstances. He was an avid reader of current events. He was always well informed, could talk to him about politics or baseball or football or academics or whatever. He was up to date only after he was fully armed with the facts about both the history and the current circumstances of an issue did he proceed to apply the biblical principles in a prayerful approach to find the position that he believed was right. Good pattern to follow. Now, in utilizing these various resources to determine how life ought to be lived and what position on critical issues he believed that a Christian ought to take, the unifying concept was the cross. Maston believed, quote, that the cross is the one symbol or general principle that most clearly, nearly unifies, ties into one bundle, and illuminates the various aspects or approaches to the Christian life and its ethic. In emphasizing the cross, Maston never neglected the incarnation or the crucifixion or the resurrection or the ascension of the Lord or his coming again. Not at all. But when he spoke about the crucifixion, he spoke of it not only in terms of the past, but of the present. For to him, the Bible emphasized not only the cross on which Christ died, but the cross which Jesus indicated we all are to take up and follow. The perpendicular beam symbolizes mankind's relationship with God. And the cross beam symbolizes humankind's relationship with one another. Dr. Maston always emphasized they must go together. You cannot be rightly related to God unless you're rightly related with other people. You can't be rightly related with other people unless you're rightly related with God. So, in a sense, therefore, evangelism and ethics in the unifying symbol of the cross go together. Evangelism helps us to come to know our relationship with God as our Savior, and ethics, what that relationship means in everyday life. And Maston spoke of the Christian's cross as personal. He cited Jesus' words of any cross. Each person's cross is unique. We should never try to impose our cross on someone else or criticize someone because their cross is not our cross. Maston always strongly advocated responsible individualism, and he refused to advocate a cookie-cutter approach to Christianity in which we would all be alike. We all had our own particular, unique cross to make.
Would you say our final blessing?